Hey, friends. Hi, good to see you. Welcome back. So, if you have been following along, we've been talking a lot about rest, about reclaiming your power and breaking free from the cycles that are keeping us stuck. Today, we're going to dive into something that shapes all of that, the stories that we tell ourselves. You know the ones that I'm talking about, those thoughts that are that whisper in your mind that are, I'm not good enough. Or how about this one? If I don't do it, no one else will. These stories, what they are, how they form, and why they often keep us stuck in these cycles of self-doubt and of fear and of limitation, whether we realize it or not. Those are our internal narratives. They shape the way that we experience the world. They shape the way that we experience the world and our place in it. These stories influence your beliefs, your choices, and the way that you see yourselves and other people. We can make adjustments to those stories in order for you to be your best, most authentic, most genuine self. So showing up in the world the way that you really want to show up in the world. So stick around and we are going to dig in. Hey there, my sister, my friend. Welcome to the Dr. Tanya B podcast with me, Dr. Tanya B. I am here to help you be your best, most authentic self, your life, your way. We're going to talk everything self-care, self-love, mindset, and personal growth with a splash of hippie woo. I am proud of you for giving yourself this time today, so let's not waste time and let's dig in. Okay, so today we are leveling up the content from earlier this month, where we have talked about rest being resistance, where we have talked about breaking the cycle so that we can rest and that we can reclaim our power, and how we are letting go of the martyrdom, the second shift, and our very firm grasp on emotional labor. I'm grabbing my pearls as I say it, our very firm grasp on emotional labor. If you have not caught those couple of episodes from the month of March yet, it is not a big deal. Stick around here first and then go back and check them out. So for now, we're going to explore how our beliefs, the stories that we have been telling ourselves, how they were formed, how they hold us back, and how we can start to untangle them. And to help us along the way, we are bringing in the amazing wisdom of Don Miguel Ruiz and his book, The Four Agreements. If you have not read this book, you're going to need to read this book. It is a game changer. And also just a really funny story about this book. It was originally introduced to me several years ago by a psychic. It was the very first time that I had ever visited a psychic. And she was very clear with me that I needed to spend some time with this book and that it was going to have a pretty profound impact on me and the way that I approach the world. And I read it and I sort of listened to it. And then maybe a year or so later, I was taking a Reiki class. And in the middle of class, the instructor just stopped talking and looked around and said, someone here is supposed to be paying attention to the book, The Four Agreements. She was really clear that she had no idea who or why. And everyone just sort of looked around until I said, yeah, that's for me. Thank you for that message, because that was my reminder. And then that was probably two or so years ago. And then about a month ago, I was in a leadership development meeting, and the provost of our institution brought up this book. And so, message received, my friend. I love the book, and I wholeheartedly believe that the Four Agreements, the impact that they can have on your life, and I'm making sure that I am practicing them to the best of my ability. I am not perfect, but I do the best that I can, and I try to remember them. All right, so let's get back to it. I thought that was funny, and it's like those universal signs just keep on coming, and you need to listen to them when that happens. So this is the perfect place to insert them here. All right, so as I always do on our episodes, I'm also going to include a very short somatic practice so that you can work on releasing one of your stories. And then I'm going to share a little bit of a client story. And then, of course, I will always invite you to join me inside the Resilience Lab or for a one-on-one session where we can apply the ASMR protocol, which is acknowledge, surrender, release, and manifest, so that we can apply that to your belief systems. And then we can help you move through some of those. Okay, so at the core, our stories are the mental scripts that we repeat to ourselves about who we are, what we are capable of, and how the world works. These stories sometimes are rooted in truth. But more often than not, they are based on perceptions, on assumptions, and beliefs that we have picked up along the way. So your internal narratives are shaped by your childhood experiences, by societal messages, and the environment in which you grew up. So, for example, if you grew up in an environment where achievement was highly valued, you might have developed the story that I must always be successful to be worthy. I will receive love when I achieve success. If you were criticized for making mistakes or were told that you had to be perfect, your story might evolve into something along the lines of, I am only valuable when I am flawless. So over time, those stories shape your identity and influence how you interact with the world around you, often without you even realizing that that's what's happening. So those stories start to form at a really young age, early experiences, especially involving people that are significant people in our lives, like parents and teachers and caregivers, people that are important, have a very profound impact on how you perceive yourself and the world around you. Your brain naturally will attempt to make sense of everything that happens. And so we create stories based on those experiences. Those stories help you then process the emotions and navigate the world. But that doesn't mean that they're 100% truthful, right? Think about a child who receives constant praise for being good or smart. They might internalize that story and tie it to their worth, or tie their worth to their achievements or approval from other people. Or a child who faces rejection or criticism might form the story that they are not lovable or they're not capable of success, right? So we carry those stories into adulthood. Doesn't matter where the context came from and if it no longer applies to us. The problem is that these stories become fixed in our minds, and you can operate on autopilot, influencing your choices, your behaviors, without even recognizing or realizing that it's based on those stories. So let's look at a couple of common examples of these stories, especially those that impact women. And many of the people around us and ourselves are telling ourselves some of these same stories. So, and then let's talk about the problems that they cause for us, right? So, my big one, and you've heard me talk about this before, but the first one for me is I'm not good enough. This is such a common story, especially among women, and then even more, especially amongst high achieving women. It often stems from childhood experiences of feeling overlooked or compared to others. It could also be rooted in a belief that love and acceptance are earned through accomplishments. This story keeps you stuck in a cycle of self criticism, and it causes burnout. You might constantly feel like you have to do more or be more to gain approval or validation, which leads you to stress, to anxiety, to never feeling like you measure up, even when you are accomplishing great things, right? Number two, here's my second one. This one has popped up in a couple of places for me recently, not necessarily for me, but for people around me. And when it starts showing up more than once, it's time for me to start talking about it. And so this one is I'm not lovable, or at least questioning, am I lovable? So this story often develops from negative experiences, more often than not in relationships. And so whether it is childhood neglect, a past romantic heartbreak, or issues with friends, you might be internalizing that you are not worthy of love or that something is wrong with you. The I'm not lovable story often leads to feelings of loneliness, of self isolation, or even self sabotage in relationships. I will tell you, loneliness is another thing that is just coming up all around me right now. People that have very full lives are expressing the feeling of loneliness. And I think that just has a lot to do with the weight of the world that we are currently in. But this feeling of not being lovable, again, leads to feelings of loneliness, self isolation, and self sabotage. And so, it can also cause you to push people away. Even the things that you love or good things when they become because you just don't believe that you deserve them, right? That's awful. And then the third one that I have is, I can't do this. And so maybe you're not saying to yourself, I can't do this, but you might react to, ooh, that's not something I'm capable of, or I'm not smart enough to do that, or whatever that looks like. This is a story that a lot of people tell themselves when they are facing a challenge or something that's unfamiliar to them. It causes procrastination because you don't feel like you're capable. It comes from early experiences where failure led to feelings of inadequacy. It can also develop from watching others fail or internalizing those observations as a belief about one's own capabilities. This I can't do this story will keep you stuck in a mindset of helplessness. It prevents you from taking risks, trying new things, or pursuing goals because you have already decided that you will fail. It limits your potential and it keeps you from discovering your true strengths and abilities. The problem with all of these stories is that they do not reflect the full truth of who you are and what you are capable of. Your mind will tend to take small, isolated experiences and then it will just generalize them into these broad limiting beliefs. And then you internalize those limiting beliefs, and that becomes who you are. That becomes your truth. And so when you live out those stories without questioning them, they begin to dictate your behaviors, your emotional responses, the choices that you make on a daily basis. And then these stories can keep you in a cycle of limitation and of fear. You might avoid opportunities. Maybe you withdraw from relationships. Maybe you sabotage your own success. Does that sound any kind of familiar to you? All of this, all of those things, because you have created this internal narrative that has convinced you that you are not worthy and you're not capable. But here's the real truth, your truth. You have the power to rewrite your story. Your narrative is not set in stone. You are not defined by your past experience or by your limiting beliefs. So when you begin to question and to challenge the stories that no longer serve you, you open the door to growth, to transformation, and to self-empowerment. This is where today's book comes into play. And so the 4 agreements, this book gives us the powerful lens to start this rewriting process. So let's break down the 4 agreements. The first one is be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. This agreement is about what you say to others, right? It is about speaking with integrity. It is saying what you mean, avoiding negativity, gossip, self-criticism, and instead using your words to express truth and to express love. And it is also about honoring your commitments. All of that is relevant and important, but 2 in particular, honoring your commitments. If you tell yourself you are going to do something for yourself, you need to honor your word to yourself, right? And then the other one that is super important is avoiding self-criticism. It turns out that this isn't just about what you say to other people. It's about the words you use when you talk to yourself. Your inner dialogue becomes the foundation for your beliefs. When you constantly criticize yourself with thoughts like, I'm so stupid, or I'll never be good enough, those words take root. They become who you are. They become your foundation. So think about it like this. Your subconscious mind is always listening. Every harsh word you say to yourself reinforces the belief that you are not worthy and you are not capable. But being impeccable with your word means speaking with intention and kindness. It means giving yourself grace. It's about recognizing that the stories you're telling yourself and you're shifting them. So the next time that that voice starts to creep in, that you pause and you ask yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? And then you offer yourself a kinder, a more empowering statement, something along the lines of, I'm learning and I'm growing, and that is enough. I am enough. Take it a step further. Write down some common negative thoughts that you have and challenge them. Take the time, challenge them. Create affirmations that align with your goals and your values, and then practice them every freaking day as a way to retrain your inner voice. This is about muscle memory. It doesn't happen overnight. So give yourself some grace, put some effort into it. All right, that was number 1. Number 2, the second agreement is don't take anything personally, right? Like that's possible, but you have to work on this. So when someone criticizes you, it's super easy to internalize it as a truth. You create stories around their words, like they must think I'm incompetent or I'll never get it right. But here's the thing, what others say and do is a reflection of their beliefs and their experiences, not your worth, not your value. This is about not interpreting everything through a lens of negativity. Ruiz reminds us that nothing others do is truly about us. When someone reacts negatively, it often has more to do with their own inner struggles. One of my favorite sayings is assume positive intent. So the next time that you feel triggered, ask yourself, what story am I creating about this situation? Could there be another perspective? Maybe you can try running it through a more positive lens, whether you believe it or not. You could also try a grounding technique, like placing your feet firmly on the floor. If you can get outside in the grass, even better. And then breathing deeply, reminding yourself that you are safe and you are secure. And then remember, when you stop personalizing other people's words, you regain your power. You are no longer at the mercy of their opinions. All right, agreement number 3, don't make assumptions. How often do you fill in the blanks? Someone does not respond to a text and suddenly we are convinced that they are upset with us, or our partner is distanced, or they're not paying attention to us and we assume we did something wrong. Assumptions often stem from your deepest fears and your insecurities. You assume that rejection, disappointment, or failure without any evidence whatsoever. So, this agreement is inviting you to pause and to seek clarity instead. I'm sure that I do not need to remind you that the word assume stands for making an ass out of you and me. Do not make those assumptions. And then instead of jumping to conclusions, try asking, what else could be true? Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're overwhelmed. And if you need more certainty, practice open communication. You've heard me talk about communication and how important this is, right? So a simple question like, hey, is everything okay? Can dissolve so much uncertainty, so much unnecessary stress, and all of the worry. Also notice where you tend to make the most assumptions. Pay attention to this. Start reflecting on it. Is it at work? Is it within your relationships? Is it with family? Start identifying what patterns are popping up, because that would then be the first steps in making changes in those patterns. And then 4, the last one, is always do your best. Your best will not look the same every single day, and that is perfectly fine. It is perfectly fine. Some days, your best might be making a really fun, healthy meal and going for a walk. Cool. Other days, it might mean resting and allowing yourself to just be. Perfectionism loves to convince us that anything less than 100% is failure, but doing your best does not mean being perfect. It means giving yourself grace and recognizing that your effort, no matter how small it is enough. One of the points around this agreement in the book is that when you always do your best, you gain control of your life and you are then able to live authentically. I freaking love that. Let me say it again. When you always do your best, you gain control of your life and you are able to live authentically. So ask yourself, what does my best look like today if I approach it with compassion? Embracing this agreement is a powerful way for you to break free from burnout and self-judgment. Keep a daily journal to reflect on what your best looked like each day. Celebrate the small wins. Even getting through a tough day is something to be proud of. Okay, let's take a couple of minutes here just to drop into our bodies. This is your somatic practice to release this story. And so we're going to think about something here. So you know the drill. If you are driving or if you are doing something that requires your full attention, continue doing that and come back to this later, but you can just listen for now. Otherwise, what I really want you to do is find a comfortable position, probably sitting down, place one hand on your heart and then the other one on your belly. And I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose. I want you to hold that for just a moment. And then I want you to exhale slowly. And as you continue breathing, I want you to think of a story that has been circling in your mind lately. Notice where it lives in your body. Maybe it's a knot in your stomach or tension in your chest. I tend to feel it at the back of my neck, at the base of my neck, between my shoulder blades. And then as you breathe, I want you to say to yourself, I see this story, I honor it, and I am ready to release what no longer serves me. Take a nice big breath, big exhale, and feel the weight lift, even if it is just a little bit. It is a start. Good job. All right, so let me share just a really quick story about a client. This woman carried the belief, if I don't do it, no one else will. She was the ultimate overfunctioner between work, family, community responsibilities. She was running on fumes. So through our work, we unpacked her story. She realized it came from childhood, where she often had to step in and care for everyone around her, including her parents. But she isn't that little girl anymore. She is a capable adult. She gets to decide where her energy goes. And so now she asks for help. She learned that delegating doesn't mean failure. It means freedom. And if you caught some of, I think it was in the LinkedIn story is where I said this, or maybe in one of the reels, anywhere, so somewhere in the last week or so, one of the things I said that I think is so powerful is that if you don't step back, they won't step up. Think about that. If you don't step back, they will not step up. And so this is what she had to do. She had to start delegating so that she could find that freedom. And so in that work, like I said that in 3 sentences, right? But do you think that I just waved a magic wand and we instantly solved the problem? Absolutely not. We dug in. We did the hard work. I walked with her through that process. If you are ready to start untangling your story, then let's do it. I'm here to help you. So join me in the Resilience Lab or schedule a one-on-one session where we will apply the ASRM protocol to uncover and release the beliefs that are holding you back. So head over to my website, www.drtanyab.com. The link is in the notes, and we will get started, my friend. So until next time, question your stories, offer yourself compassion, and know that you are worthy of joy. I love you. See you soon.